Jake Martinez floated through the massive hallways of the Galactic Council Station. The place was huge, bigger than any building he had ever seen on Earth. Metal walls stretched up so high he could not see the top. Strange lights glowed everywhere, making everything look blue and cold. He had been the human ambassador for only 3 months now. Every day brought new surprises about how different alien species could be. Some looked like giant insects. Others were made of what seemed like living rock. A few glowed with their own light. Today felt different, though. Jake had received a message that morning from Council Representative Zixthera. She wanted to meet with him about something called the Galactic Strength Trials. Jake had never heard of these trials before. The meeting room was circular with no chairs. Most alien species did not sit the way humans did. Jake stood near the wall, trying to look comfortable while his back started to ache. Zixthera entered the room like flowing water made of crystal. She was beautiful in a strange way, but also scary. Her body looked like it was carved from clear stone, and lights moved inside her like electricity. When she spoke, her voice sounded like wind chimes. "Ambassador Martinez," she said, "I bring you an invitation." Jake nodded. "Thank you. What kind of invitation?" "The Galactic Strength Trials happen every solar cycle. They are very important to our civilization. The trials determine which species are the strongest in the galaxy." "Strongest how?" Jake asked. Zixthera's lights flickered, which Jake had learned meant she was thinking. Physical strength, lifting power, speed. How long someone can work without stopping. How well they survive in difficult places. She moved closer, and Jake could hear a soft humming sound coming from inside her crystal body. For thousands of years, 3 species have dominated these trials. The Corvin are the strongest. Lifters, the Silthek are the fastest. The Draknari can survive anywhere. Jake listened carefully. This sounded important, but he was not sure why she was telling him. "Would you like to observe the trials?" Zixthera asked. "As a learning experience for your species?" The way she said learning experience made Jake feel like she was talking to a child, but he kept his face calm. Diplomacy meant staying polite even when people looked down on you. "I would be honored to observe," Jake said. "When do they happen?" "In 2 weeks, but I should explain the requirements first." Zixthera's lights grew brighter. To participate in the trials, a being must meet minimum standards. They must lift at least 1,500 pounds. They must run without stopping for 72 hours. They must react to dangers in less than 1,000th of a second. They must survive temperatures from 200 below zero to 500 above. Jake tried not to show his shock. Those numbers seemed impossible for any human he knew. "Of course," Zixthera continued, "humans are welcome to watch. Participation requires meeting the standards, and your species appears to be designed more for thinking than physical activity." There it was again. That polite way of saying humans were weak. "Could I see the current champions?" Jake asked, to better understand what these trials involve. Zixthera agreed and led him to a training area. The space was enormous, with equipment Jake did not recognize. Strange machines and weights were scattered around like toys for giants. The first champion was a Corvin named Thorgak. He stood almost 10 feet tall and looked like he was made of muscle and bone. His arms were thicker than Jake's whole body. When Thorgak lifted a weight, the metal bar bent slightly under the pressure of his grip. 2,000 pounds, Zixthera said casually, as if this was normal. Jake watched Thorgak move the weight like it was a bag of groceries. The Corvin's face showed no strain at all. Next came a Silthek warrior called Wisptail. She looked like a cross between a human and a hunting cat. Her body was covered in short gray fur, and her eyes were bright yellow. When she moved, Jake could barely follow her with his eyes. She seemed to teleport from one place to another. Her reaction time is 0.0008 seconds, Zixthera explained. She can dodge projectiles fired at close range. The third champion was a Draknari named Boulderfist. His skin looked like rock, gray and bumpy. He was not as tall as Thorgak, but he was wider and looked incredibly solid. As Jake watched, Boulderfist walked into a chamber that Zixthera said was heated to 400 degrees. He stayed inside for 10 minutes, then came out looking comfortable. The Draknari evolved on a world with extreme temperatures, Zixthera said. They find most environments pleasant. Jake nodded and tried to look impressed rather than worried. These beings were so far beyond human ability that it seemed like a different category of life entirely. Very educational, Jake said. Could you send me the complete trial specifications for our records on Earth? Certainly. Zixthera's lights dimmed, which meant the meeting was ending. Though I suspect your scientists will find them quite beyond current human capabilities. Jake smiled. You never know. Humans can be surprising sometimes. After Zixthera left, Jake stood alone in the training area. He watched Thorgak continue his workout, lifting weights that would crush a human instantly. Wisptail practiced combat, moves that created small sonic booms in the air. Boulderfist sat in a freezing chamber, looking relaxed. Jake pulled out his communication device and began typing a message to Earth. He sent it to Dr. Lisa Crawford at the Human Performance Enhancement Institute. Lisa was one of the smartest people he knew when it came to what humans could do with their bodies. His message was simple. Lisa, need to know if any human could meet these physical requirements. Sending specifications now. This is important for how other species see us. Jake attached the trial requirements and sent the message. Then he looked back at the alien champions. Maybe Zixthera was right. Maybe humans really were too weak for this kind of competition. But Jake had learned something important during his time as ambassador. Other species often underestimated humans. They saw what humans could not do, but they missed what humans could do. Jake had a feeling that this galactic strength trial might be about to get very interesting. Dr. Lisa Crawford sat in her lab on Earth staring at her computer screen. Jake Martinez's message had arrived 3 hours ago, and she had read it 12 times. The alien strength requirements seemed impossible. Lift 1,500 pounds. Run for 72 hours without stopping. React in less than 1,000th of a second. Survive temperatures that would kill most humans in minutes. Ryan, come look at this, she called to her research partner. Dr. Ryan Foster walked over from his desk. He was tall and thin, the kind of person who spent more time reading about fitness than actually exercising. But his brain was sharp, and he understood human performance better than almost anyone. Ryan read the requirements over Lisa's shoulder. His eyebrows went up higher with each line. This is crazy, he said. No human can do this stuff. Maybe, Lisa said. But Jake wouldn't send this if it wasn't important. He says it affects how aliens see our whole species. They spent the next hour going through their database of human performance records. Olympic weightlifters could handle about 800 pounds maximum. Marathon runners could go for maybe 6 hours at their best. Even the fastest human reflexes were nowhere close to what the aliens required. We need someone special, Lisa said. Someone who already pushes the limits of what humans can do. They made a list. Olympic athletes, Navy SEALs, professional strongmen, mountain climbers, deep-sea divers, people who made a living doing impossible things. But as they looked at each name, problems appeared. The Olympic lifters were strong but had no endurance. The marathon runners could go long distances but were not very strong. The soldiers were tough but specialized in combat, not raw physical tests. What about combining traits? Ryan asked. Find someone who is good at multiple things instead of perfect at one thing? Lisa nodded. That made sense. The alien trials tested everything at once. They needed a human who was balanced, not specialized. She started a new search. This time, she looked for people who did multiple physical jobs. Construction workers who also competed in strength contests, firefighters who ran ultramarathons, farmers who worked 18-hour days in all kinds of weather. One name caught her attention. Danny Chen from Detroit, Michigan, age 28. Occupation, construction foreman. Lisa clicked on his file. Danny had grown up in a family of iron workers. His father, grandfather, and 2 uncles all worked building skyscrapers and bridges. Danny had been lifting heavy steel beams since he was 16 years old. But that was not all. Danny also competed in amateur strongman contests on weekends. He had finished 3 ultramarathons. In winter, he worked outside in temperatures below zero. In summer, he worked on rooftops when it was over 100 degrees. Look at this, Lisa told Ryan. He works 60-hour weeks doing heavy labor, then he goes home and trains for strength competitions, and he does it year-round, in Michigan weather. Ryan studied Danny's photo. He looked normal, not like a superhero. Medium height, maybe 5 feet 10 inches, solid build but not enormous. Brown hair, friendly face, the kind of person you might see at a grocery store. He doesn't look special, Ryan said. That's exactly why he might be perfect, Lisa replied. The aliens expect humans to look weak. Danny looks like a regular guy, but his body is adapted to constant hard work. Lisa picked up her phone and dialed Danny's number. It was 6 in the evening in Detroit, so he would probably be home from work. Hello? The voice sounded tired but friendly. Hi, is this Danny Chen? Yeah, who's this? My name is Dr. Lisa Crawford. I work for the Human Performance Enhancement Institute. I have an unusual question for you. Danny laughed. Okay, shoot. How would you feel about representing humanity in a strength competition against alien species? There was a long pause. Ma'am, are you feeling okay? Lisa explained the situation, the Galactic Council, the strength trials, how it would affect humanity's reputation in space. She tried to make it sound serious and important instead of crazy. Danny listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for almost a minute. So you want me to arm wrestle aliens? He finally said. It's more complicated than that, but basically yes. And if I say no, other species will think humans are weaklings? That's possible. Another long pause. Lisa could hear construction sounds in the background. Danny was probably at a job site. Doc, I've been moving heavy stuff around since I was a kid, Danny said. My whole family builds things for a living. We're not fancy, but we work hard. That's exactly why you're perfect for this. When would this happen? In 2 weeks. You'd need to come to a training facility immediately for preparation. Danny was quiet again. Lisa held her breath. All right, he said finally. Someone's got to show these space folks what real work looks like. When do I start? Lisa felt relief flood through her body. Can you be in Colorado tomorrow? I'll have to talk to my boss, but yeah. This better not be some kind of joke, though. I promise you this is very real. After hanging up, Lisa looked at Ryan. We have our volunteer. Are you sure about this? He's just a construction worker. Lisa pulled up videos of Danny competing in strongman events. He moved efficiently without wasted motion. When he lifted heavy objects, he used his whole body, not just his arms. When he got tired, he kept going anyway. Ryan, look at how he approaches problems. He doesn't try to be fancy. He just figures out what works and does it. That's exactly what we need. The next morning, Danny Chen walked into their laboratory in Colorado Springs. He was wearing work boots, jeans, and a Detroit Lions t-shirt. He looked around at all the scientific equipment with curious eyes. So what exactly are we doing here? He asked. Lisa showed him the alien strength requirements again. Danny read them carefully. His face serious. 1,500 pounds, huh? He scratched his chin. I can do about 1,200 on a good day. 72 hours of running is nuts, but I once worked for 48 hours straight during an emergency construction job. What about the temperature extremes? Ryan asked. Danny shrugged. I work outside year-round in Michigan. Last winter, it got down to 30 below. Last summer, I was on a roof when it hit 105. You adapt. Lisa felt a spark of hope. Danny was not intimidated by the requirements. He was analyzing them like work problems to be solved. The reaction time might be tough, Danny admitted. But in construction, you learn to move fast when something's falling toward your head. They spent the rest of the day testing Danny's current abilities. He was stronger than his file indicated. His endurance was remarkable. Most importantly, he approached each test with calm intelligence. We have 2 weeks to optimize what you already do well, Lisa explained. We're not trying to change you into someone else. We're trying to make you the best version of yourself. Danny nodded. Sounds good, Doc. Let's get to work. Danny Chen stepped off the transport ship New Horizons and onto the Galactic Council station. The place was even bigger than Dr. Crawford had described. Metal corridors stretched in every direction, filled with creatures he had only seen in pictures. Floating jellyfish-like being drifted past him, glowing soft purple. 3 small reptilian creatures walked by, chattering in high-pitched voices. Danny tried not to stare, but everything was so strange. "Stay close to me," Dr. Crawford whispered. "And remember, let them underestimate you." Danny nodded. Over the past 2 weeks of training, Lisa had explained the strategy. The aliens expected humans to be weak. If Danny looked too confident or strong, they might change the rules or prepare special challenges for him. Jake Martinez met them at the docking. He looked relieved to see them. "How was the trip?" Jake asked. "Long," Danny replied. "But I've had worse commutes." Jake smiled. Danny's calm attitude had impressed everyone during training. Nothing seemed to worry him much. They walked through the station toward the medical examination area. Other beings stared at Danny as they passed. Most looked curious, some seemed amused. A few appeared confused, as if wondering why a human was there at all. The medical center was run by Dr. Vexnoth, a Silthek physician. He looked like Wisptail, the champion Danny had seen in videos, but older, and wearing what appeared to be a lab coat made of metal fabric. "So this is the human participant," Dr. Vexnoth said. His voice sounded like a cat trying to speak English. "Very interesting." Danny lay on the examination table while alien medical equipment scanned his body. The machines made strange humming and clicking sounds. Dr. Vexnoth studied the results on a screen covered with symbols Danny could not read. "Fascinating," the doctor muttered. "Your cardiovascular system is quite primitive. These muscle fibers are inefficient compared to most species. And your bone density is surprisingly low," Dr. Crawford translated quietly. "He's saying you look normal for a human. Your species appears designed for persistence rather than power," Dr. Vexnoth continued. "I am curious why you wish to embarrass yourself in the trials." Danny shrugged. "Figured I'd give it a try." After the medical exam, Jake took them to observe the other competitors during practice. The training area was massive, filled with equipment that looked more like torture devices than exercise machines. Thorgak, the Corvin champion, was lifting weights that made the metal floor shake. Each rep sounded like a small earthquake. He stood nearly 9 feet tall with arms like tree trunks and a chest as wide as a refrigerator. When he noticed Danny watching, Thorgak walked over. Each step made a heavy thudding sound. "You are the human?" Thorgak's voice was so deep it seemed to come from underground. "That's me," Danny said, looking up at the giant alien. Thorgak examined Danny like he was an interesting bug. "I have heard your species is very fragile. I will try not to accidentally crush you during the competition." "Thanks, I appreciate that," Danny replied seriously. Thorgak seemed confused by Danny's calm response. Most beings showed fear or anger when he spoke to them. This human acted like they were discussing the weather. Next, Danny watched Strike Claw, the Silthek champion. She moved so fast that she seemed to blur. When she practiced combat moves, the air made cracking sounds from her speed. Strike Claw noticed Danny and approached with fluid, predatory movements. Her yellow eyes studied him like a hawk watching a mouse. "Perhaps the human can serve as a warm-up exercise," she hissed. Her claws extended and retracted in a rhythm that was probably meant to be threatening. "Maybe," Danny said. "Though I should warn you, I'm pretty boring to fight. I just try not to get hit." Strike Claw's eyes narrowed. She had expected fear or boasting, not casual conversation. The third champion, Ironhide from the Draknari, completely ignored Danny. He was practicing in temperature chambers, moving from extreme cold to extreme heat without any change in expression. His rock-like skin showed no reaction to conditions that would kill most life forms. "He doesn't seem very friendly," Danny observed. "Ironhide considers you beneath his notice," Jake explained. "To him, you're not even worth acknowledging." Danny watched Ironhide work for a few minutes. "Interesting technique. He doesn't fight the temperature change, just accepts it." Dr. Crawford looked at Danny with surprise. "What do you mean?" Look at his breathing. It stays the same in hot or cold. He's not trying to stay comfortable, he's just letting his body handle whatever comes. Jake and Lisa exchanged glances. Danny was analyzing the alien champions like construction problems to be solved. Over the next few days, galactic media began covering the upcoming trials. Danny became a curiosity, the weak human who somehow qualified for the competition. News reports called him the participation trophy contestant and an example of species optimism over reality. Commentators suggested that perhaps the trials should include beginner categories for developing civilizations. Danny watched some of these reports in his quarters. The aliens spoke in their own languages, but translation software provided subtitles. "They really don't think much of humans, do they?" he said to Dr. Crawford. "Does that bother you?" she asked. Danny thought about it. "Back home, people used to tell me I'd never amount to much because I didn't go to college. Said construction, work was for people who couldn't do anything else. What did you do about that?" "I built things, good things, things that lasted. Eventually, people stopped talking and started paying attention to the work." The night before the trials, Danny couldn't sleep. Not because he was nervous, but because the station never got dark. Artificial lights glowed constantly, and there was always activity in the corridors. He got up and walked to the observation deck that looked out into space. Stars stretched in every direction, more than he had ever seen from Earth. Jake found him there an hour later. "Having second thoughts?" Jake asked. "Nope. Just thinking." "About what?" Danny was quiet for a moment. "Back in Detroit, when we're building something big, everyone watches the first day. They want to see if the crew knows what they're doing or if it's going to be a disaster. And most of the time we look like we don't know what we're doing. We move slow, we measure twice, we take breaks. People get bored and stop watching." Jake waited for Danny to continue. "But then the building goes up, straight and strong and exactly where it's supposed to be. And suddenly everyone's interested again. You think that's what's going to happen tomorrow?" Danny looked out at the stars. "I think these aliens are about to learn something about humans they didn't expect." "What's that?" "We're a lot tougher than we look." The next morning, aliens from across the galaxy gathered in the arena to watch the galactic strength trials. Most came expecting entertainment, curious to see how badly the human would fail. Danny Chen walked onto the competition floor wearing simple athletic clothes and work boots. He looked small next to the alien champions, ordinary compared to their impressive appearances. The crowd's chatter died down as they got their first good look at humanity's representative. He didn't look like much. That was exactly what Danny was counting on. The arena fell quiet as the competition began. Thousands of aliens filled the viewing areas, their strange voices creating a low buzz of excitement. Danny stood with the other competitors, looking small next to the massive champions. The first trial was lifting. A huge platform held weights made from dense alien metals. The rules were simple: lift as much as possible. Each competitor would start with the minimum weight and keep adding more until they failed. Thorgak went first. The Corvin champion approached the platform with confidence. His massive hands wrapped around the lifting bar, making it look like a toy. The weight said 1,500 pounds, the minimum to qualify. Thorgak lifted it like it was empty. The crowd cheered. He added more weight, 1,600 pounds, 1,700, 1,800. At each level, he paused to flex his enormous muscles for the audience. "Impressive," the announcer said. "Thorgak continues the Corvin tradition of raw power." Strike Claw went next. The Silthek was much smaller than Thorgak, but her technique was perfect. She used speed and precision instead of pure strength. Her movements were so fast they created small wind gusts. She managed 1,200 pounds, which was excellent for her body size. The Silthek delegation cheered loudly. Ironhide approached the platform like a machine. No wasted motion, no emotion. He simply grabbed the weight and lifted. His rock-like face showed no strain as he worked through the levels. 1,600 pounds was his maximum. Then it was Danny's turn. The arena grew quiet. Some aliens leaned forward in their seats, curious. To see the human fail, others started casual conversations, not expecting anything interesting. Danny walked to the platform slowly. He examined the lifting bar, checking how it was balanced. He tested his grip, adjusting his hands several times. To the aliens, he looked confused and unprepared. "The human appears to be having difficulty with the equipment," the announcer noted with amusement. But Danny wasn't confused. He was analyzing. The bar was designed for alien physiology, with different grip spacing and weight distribution. Danny was figuring out how to make it work for human hands and shoulders. He positioned himself under the bar and lifted the minimum weight of 1,500 pounds. It came up smoothly. Too smoothly. The crowd's chatter started to fade. Danny set the weight down and added more. 1,600 pounds. He lifted it with the same steady motion. No shaking, no strain on his face. 1,700 pounds. 1,800 pounds. 1,900 pounds. The arena was getting quieter with each successful lift. At 2,000 pounds, Danny paused, not because he was tired, but because he was thinking. He looked at the weight setup, calculating in his head like he was figuring out how many steel beams a crane could handle. He lifted 2,000 pounds easily. Thorgak was staring now. The Corvin champion had never seen anything like this. This small human was matching his best efforts without any sign of difficulty. Danny kept adding weight. 2,100, 2,200, 2,300. How is this possible? Strike Claw whispered to Ironhide. The Draknari champion, who had ignored Danny completely, was now watching with full attention. Dr. Crawford watched from the observation area, hardly believing what she was seeing. During training, Danny had maxed out at about 1,300 pounds. Whatever was happening here was beyond anything they had prepared for. At 2,400 pounds, Danny finally showed some strain, but instead of struggling, he adjusted his technique. He had noticed that the alien weight system worked differently from Earth equipment. The balance point was lower, which actually made it easier for someone with his build to generate leverage. 2,500 pounds went up. 2,600 pounds. At 2,700 pounds, Danny finally reached his limit. He set the weight down and stepped back, breathing hard but not exhausted. The arena was completely silent. Zix Thara, the crystal being who had invited Jake to observe, was pulsing with lights that indicated extreme confusion. "This is impossible," she said to Jake. "Your species data indicated much lower capabilities." Jake smiled. "You tested our average people. Danny represents what humans become when we push ourselves." The endurance trial began immediately. The competitors had to run on a track that changed surfaces and inclines. They could stop when they wanted, but the one who ran longest would win. The aliens expected this to be easy. Humans were known for being slow and getting tired quickly. Thorgak started at a pace that looked like a human sprint. His massive legs covered ground quickly, but Danny could see the Corvin was using a lot of energy. This was going to be about efficiency, not speed. Strike Claw moved like liquid lightning, but she was built for short bursts of activity, not long distances. Ironhide ran like a machine, steady and unchanging. But even machines needed fuel. Danny started slow, very slow. Aliens in the crowd began to laugh. Some made jokes about the human who was already falling behind, but Danny knew something they didn't. Humans had evolved to be persistence hunters. His ancestors had chased prey across continents, running for days until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. After 1 hour, Thorgak was breathing heavily. After 2 hours, Strike Claw had to slow down. After 4 hours, Ironhide began to show signs of fatigue. Danny was still running at the same steady pace. His breathing was deep and regular. His form hadn't changed. He looked like he could run forever. "What is happening?" the announcer asked. "The human shows no signs of slowing down." 6 hours passed. 8 hours. 10 hours. One by one, the alien champions had to stop. Their bodies were designed for power or speed, but not for endless endurance. Danny kept running. His work boots hit the track in a steady rhythm that never varied. 12 hours, 15 hours, 20 hours. The crowd had gone from laughing to confused to amazed to completely silent. This wasn't supposed to be possible. At 24 hours, Danny was still running. The other competitors had long since given up. Thorgak sat in the competitor area, staring at the human with something like awe. "I do not understand," he said to Strike Claw. "He appears weak, but he runs like a machine that never stops." Strike Claw was equally puzzled. "His technique is inefficient. His speed is slow. But he continues when stronger beings have failed." Finally, at 36 hours, the officials stopped the trial. Danny had run longer than any being in galactic history. When they told him to stop, he looked disappointed. "Already?" he asked. "I was just getting warmed up." The reaction speed trial was next. Competitors had to dodge projectiles fired from different directions. The fastest reflexes would win. Danny couldn't match Strike Claw's pure speed. But he had something else: pattern recognition. Growing up on construction sites had taught him to watch for falling objects, swinging cranes, and other dangers. He learned to predict where trouble would come from before it happened. While Strike Claw relied on reacting after she saw a threat, Danny was already moving based on subtle signs that danger was coming. His responses looked slower but were often more effective. The environmental adaptation trial was last. Competitors had to survive in chambers with extreme temperatures, pressure, and atmospheric conditions. Here, Danny's years of working outside in Michigan weather paid off. He had learned not to fight uncomfortable conditions but to adapt to them. When the temperature dropped, he adjusted his breathing and movement to conserve heat. When it rose, he found ways to stay cool. Most importantly, he stayed calm. Panic used energy and made everything worse. Danny treated each environment like a job site with difficult conditions. Uncomfortable but manageable. By the end of the trials, Danny had not just won, he had dominated. Every record was broken. Every assumption about human capability was shattered. The alien audience sat in stunned silence. Their champions looked at Danny with new respect and confusion. Thorgak approached Danny after the final results were announced. "I do not understand, small human," the giant Corvin said. "You do not appear strong, yet you lift more than 3 of me. You do not appear fast, yet you run when I cannot. How is this possible?" Danny wiped sweat from his forehead and grinned. "Back home, we have a saying. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog." He paused, looking up at the confused alien. "Plus, I've been moving heavy stuff around since I was 12 years old. Your fancy gym weights don't compare to real work." The award ceremony took place in the largest chamber of the Galactic Council Station. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the space, all staring at the small human who had just changed everything they thought they knew about strength. Danny stood on the winner's platform, looking uncomfortable in the formal clothes Dr. Crawford had brought for him. The metal around his neck was made from some kind of alien crystal that caught the light and threw rainbows across the walls. Council leader Vorthak, a being that looked like a walking tree made of metal, approached the platform. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "For the first time in galactic history," he announced, "we have a new species champion. Danny Chen of Earth has broken every existing record in the galactic strength trials." The numbers appeared on screens around the chamber. Danny had lifted 40% more than the previous record. His endurance performance was so far beyond anything seen before that officials had to create new measurement categories. Even his reaction times, while not the fastest, showed a type of intelligence that impressed the experts. But the most shocking result was environmental adaptation. Danny had not just survived every test condition, he had thrived in them, using improvised techniques that no one had seen before. "How did you do it?" asked a reporter from the Galactic News Network. She was a small blue creature with 6 arms, each holding a different recording device. Danny scratched his head, still not comfortable with all the attention. "I just did what I always do, figured out what needed to be done and did it." "But the lifting records," another reporter pressed. "How did you exceed capabilities that seemed impossible for your species?" "The weights were balanced different than What I'm used to, Danny explained. Once I figured out how they worked, it was like using a better lever, made the job easier. The alien reporters looked confused. They were expecting some secret human technology or special training method. Instead, Danny was talking about the physics of lifting heavy objects like it was common sense. Jake Martinez watched from the audience, trying not to smile too widely. The political implications of Danny's victory were already becoming clear. Species that had dismissed humanity as physically weak were now scrambling to reassess their positions. Ambassador Klixara from the Vegan Empire approached Jake during the reception after the ceremony. The Vegans controlled several important trade routes and had previously shown little interest in dealing with Earth. Ambassador Martinez, Klixara said, her translated voice sounding nervous. Perhaps we should discuss expanded trade agreements between our species. Of course, Jake replied casually. Though I should mention that all human trade negotiations are handled by our economic specialists. They're quite good at getting favorable terms. Klixara's expression suggested she was beginning to understand that if humans were this capable physically, their other abilities might also be underestimated. Dr. Crawford was surrounded by alien scientists wanting to understand human training methods. Dr. Vex Noth, the Silthek physician who had examined Danny, looked embarrassed as he tried to explain his earlier assessment. The human physiology appeared inefficient in my scans, he admitted to a group of colleagues. I failed to account for adaptability and mental optimization of physical resources. What training methods produced these results? Asked Dr. Zenth, a researcher from the Advanced Species Council. Dr. Crawford smiled. 40-hour work weeks in construction, weekend strongman competitions, and growing up in Michigan winters. The alien scientists looked at each other with confusion. These didn't sound like advanced training techniques. They sounded like normal human life. Meanwhile, Danny was talking with the former champions. The conversation had moved from formal congratulations to genuine curiosity about each other's abilities. Thorgak was still trying to understand what had happened. Your lifting technique uses the whole body, he observed. Corvin methods focus on arm and back strength. Perhaps we have been inefficient. Different problems need different solutions, Danny said. You're built for pure power. I'm built for making things work even when they're not supposed to. Strikeclaw was interested in Danny's reaction time performance. You were not the fastest, she noted. But you avoided more projectiles than expected. How? Pattern recognition, Danny explained. In construction, you learn to watch for things that might fall or break. You don't wait until something's already happening. You look for the signs that something's about to happen. Ironhide, who had barely spoken during the trials, was the most thoughtful in his questions. Your environmental adaptation was remarkable. Most species evolve for specific conditions. Humans seem to adapt to any condition. We had to, Danny said. Humans spread all over Earth. Hot places, cold places, mountains, deserts, everywhere. We learned to make do with whatever we found. As the evening continued, Danny noticed something interesting happening. The alien species were starting to ask different questions about humanity. Instead of dismissing humans as weak or primitive, they wanted to know about human problem-solving methods, adaptability techniques, and persistence training. A week later, Dr. Crawford received the first official request for consultation services. The Corvin military wanted to learn human lifting techniques to improve their equipment handling efficiency. Then came requests from the Silthek about human pattern recognition training for their scouts. The Dreknari asked about human methods for working in varied environments. Within a month, Jake was invited to defense planning meetings that had previously been restricted to the galaxy's major military powers. Earth's status in the Galactic Council was quietly upgraded from observer species to consultation member. But the biggest change happened on Earth itself. News of Danny's victory spread quickly, and suddenly everyone wanted to know what humans were really capable of. Athletic programs expanded. Military training evolved. Construction and labor jobs gained new respect, as people realized that physical work built the kind of strength that had impressed the galaxy. Danny himself returned to Detroit and his construction job, but now he also worked as a consultant. helping design training programs for people who wanted to push human limits. The thing is, Danny told a group of trainees at the new Human Performance Center, we're all stronger than we think. Most of the time, we just don't have a reason to find out how strong. He paused to watch a student struggling with a heavy lift. The aliens thought they knew what humans could do based on our averages. But averages don't tell you what someone can do when they really need to do it. The student completed the lift successfully. That's the thing they didn't understand about us. Danny continued. We're not designed for one specific thing like they are. We're designed to figure out whatever needs to be done and then do it. 6 months after the trials, Jake received another message from Zixathera. This time, she wasn't offering an invitation to observe. She was asking if humans would be interested in helping design the next generation of galactic strength trials. It appears, she wrote, that our previous understanding of physical capability was limited. Human methods suggest there are types of strength we had not considered. Perhaps it is time for the galaxy to learn from Earth. Jake smiled as he forwarded the message to Danny. The construction worker from Detroit was about to become the galaxy's fitness consultant. That evening, Danny was finishing up a job site in downtown Detroit when his phone rang. It was Jake with the news about the galactic fitness consultation offer. So what do you think? Jake asked. Ready to teach the galaxy how to get strong? Danny looked around at the building his crew had constructed that day. Straight, solid, built to last. Sure, he said. But they're going to have to learn that real strength isn't about being the biggest or the fastest. It's about doing what needs to be done no matter what. As Danny packed up his tools and headed home, alien ships were already arriving at Earth's space stations. The galaxy was ready to learn what human strength really meant, and it all started with one construction worker who refused to be impressed by impossible standards and just did the work that needed to be done.